Are you ready? Have I eaten anything today? No. Do I feel delirious, dizzy, nauseous? Yes. Am I going to eat anything? No. My mid-20s have sucked. How do you go from being like your best self, your most successful self, getting it, to becoming an extension of your bed? Like, I kid you not, in the last 12 months, the amount of bedrotting I have done is embarrassing, but it is something that I have been forced to confront, accept, and just make peace with. And it's cute because I was like trying to rebrand myself as being in my soft girl era, but girl, let's be real, there ain't nothing soft about slaying demons and depression and despair, because that has been the theme of my mid-20s. And you know just how bad I've been going through it, because I have not made a video in months. I dyed my hair, although you can barely really tell. I'm gonna go more blonde, but let's just get into it. All right, let's talk about what most of us are struggling with, because I know I'm not the only one struggling with loneliness, aimlessness, despair, lack of purpose, fear for the future and what's going on in the world. I had to fix this strand because it was ugly as hell. Only time will tell as it dries. But anyway, let's get into it. The season of extreme isolation. And no, I'm not talking about the lockdowns, although that really did feel like a boot camp to help me train for this season in my life. Nobody told me that when you turn 25 and your frontal lobe fully develops, you'll actually have high standards and be lonely AF because you're actually upholding them. Unlike my early 20s where I had no idea who I was or what I believed in and accepted subpar walking red flags everywhere I went. Whereas now I have clearly defined my values and morals, but now I have to uphold them consistently. Otherwise, I will constantly be in an internal battle of cognitive dissonance because I'm not acting in alignment with said morals and values, therefore living an unhappy and unfulfilled life, not being true to myself. It's hard work, man. You know why? Because my values just do not align with the status quo in a Western modern culture like the one I live in. You know, so I really struggle to find my peoples and find fun that isn't drenched in substance abuse and general immorality and just outright degeneracy. It's like I'm trying to find the right halal to haram ratio. You know, like I never really aligned with or associated with the kumbaya, my lord kids from like the church communities, but I also never really meshed with like the Brunswick crew. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like this problem is especially worse in a country like Australia, where I'm from, because we don't have that big of a population to begin with. And the culture here is very individualistic. Like you can't create spontaneity in your daily life because you've got to give people weeks in advance. People are very hard set about their boundaries. Like I see my closest friends every 3 to 6 months. That's the norm. Vulnerability is so awkward because people just don't like talking about what they don't have. Like tall poppy syndrome here is real. Unless you're really close with the person or there's alcohol involved, you're not going to get much out of someone. And even if they do open up to you, the next time you see them when they're sober, it's as if it never happened. People just lack depth here. The standards expected of a relationship between friends even is just not on my level. And maybe that is just a me problem, but I feel like I have met the same archetype of person several times over. Like, excite me, entice me, humor me, controversialize me, give me something. I always like test the waters a little, like, how deep do you go? Like, how much of an opinion do you have? How non-PC are you? You know, like how much of your humor didn't come from TikTok? And most of the time I am disappointed. So it's like, I don't even want to invest in a relationship that I know is not going to fulfill my needs. And the issue is, I know there's something in there. I know that if you were really about true self-expression and authenticity, we could actually gel. But there are just too many boundaries and we don't even have the same freedom of speech amendments as America does. So people have to be really, really filtered when they speak. And unfortunately, that kind of culture just does not align with the outspoken, politically incorrect AF, highly opinionated, severely sarcastic, chaotic person that I am. I know this is not an issue that's exclusive to Australia. I know this is more of a generational problem or maybe like something that we see in Western cultures, but I feel like it's severely exacerbated here just from numbers alone. Like we have such a small population that based on the law of averages, you've got less chances of winning than people in America or the UK. And speaking of, I know that it is a problem in Australia, because tell me why I have had some deep and meaningful conversations and connections with people on a TikTok live, and all of them ain't from Australia. Come to think of it, all my best memories with the best people have been friends that I've made online. And that's saying something. I think it's a lack of community values, a lack of having our own culture, because let's be real, like Australia just samples every other culture. We don't really have our own. I think it's a lack of zest, a lack of passion, a lack of outspokenness. Like even in our history, Australians have never had a civil war. We've never spoken out against what we're not happy with. Like we don't rebel. That's not what we do. And I think that alongside this placid nature, you also lack that excitement for life. And that's one thing I really hate about living here. And it's made this mid-20s crisis so bad because I don't want anything less than what I want, you know? And I think the biggest thing I hate about living here is the whole
yes, queen, be yourself, go off,
is only limited to a certain subset of people. Like if you were really about like individualism, if you were really about being your true self, why is that only limited to the hairy middle-aged man in a catsuit wearing lipstick? But then when it comes to me voicing my opinions, I'm subtly shunned, shamed, cancelled. Like the only time I had successful friendships in this country was when I was more secular, I was more degenerate, and when there were substances involved. As soon as I started to move away from that, as soon as I started to come into myself more and I guess separate myself from that crowd, people were no longer as tolerant of me. So don't come telling me that you guys are all about individualism, okay?
Don't gaslight me into that, honey.
It's always going to be against the social norms. And if it deviates from that, all of a sudden it becomes offensive. It is exhausting being lonely, but it is far more exhausting hanging out with people that I have to dilute my personality and subconsciously censor myself for.
Your boos mean nothing. I've seen what makes you cheer.
I just don't want to hang out with jellyfish anymore. Stone me. And yo, if you know me and you're watching this video and you think I'm talking about you, I'm probably not. Although if the shoe fits. And if you're not somebody who knows me and you'd like to know me and you're like, wait, a girl like her exists in Melbourne? We should be friends. I agree, we should, okay? Friend applications are open. Get in before summer so we can do some road trips to the Mornington Peninsula. But for real, let's get to know each other, okay? Beyond the shackles that Australian culture puts on friendships, okay? I'm down. Okay, let's move on. Another huge part of my mid-20s crisis has been the result of complete and utter long-term burnout. Living in my masculine for so long, you know, getting decision fatigue and just getting to the point where you have no intrinsic motivation to do anything. So ever since I was like 15, I went full throttle about my academics. I was like a straight A student. I was the class valedictorian in my final year. I went to the best university. I studied a really hard course. Then I got into fitness. I dropped like 15 kilos in like 5 or 6 months, which isn't actually very long at all. It was just go, go, go. And even after I graduated uni, I started my first office gig, climbed the corporate ladder, became a manager. And at the same time, I was launching my business. And then I got to a point where I was working like 7 days a week, 8 to 10 hours a day. It was pretty hectic. And then I started a second business when I went full-time on my first business. And I was chronically under-eating and overtraining and constantly going through cycles of bulking and cutting. And let's just say I abused my body, okay? What do you get when you abuse your body for 10 years? You get chronic health issues, a dysregulated nervous system. But what did I do? I just kept pushing through until my body reached a point where it's like, girl, we need to sit your ass down and stage an intervention because this is entitled behavior. You do not have any respect for me. So sit your ass down and deal with it. And so yeah, I hit rock bottom and I was like, okay, I've really got to get my life together. I've got to focus on my health, and I kickstarted my healing journey. That was also around the time that I started my walk with God. And over time, I realized all the things I thought I wanted, I actually didn't want. So I thought I wanted to be this like hustler, boss ass bitch, get your bag. But I just realized that I don't want that. I don't want to work 10 hours a day. I want to embody more of my feminine energy. I wanted to take on more of a domesticated role. Once it clicked in my head that what I thought I wanted wasn't actually what I wanted, it's like I did like a whole 180. But then I was in this like weird limbo because it's like, okay, well, I've just lost my life's purpose. So what now? I gave up on my vision boards and my plans and my endless checklists and my schedules upon schedules, and everything that I lived and breathed just like no longer mattered to me. So I was left with nothing. This is when I became like fully reliant on God. Like I wasn't worried about my next move, my next bag, where my next paycheck was gonna come from. I literally just said, yo, Jesus, take the wheel. Like I am done being in the driver's seat. I'm done being in control of everything. But it was not all sunshine and rainbows, unfortunately. Despite giving myself the permission to relax and being led rather than being the leader, I completely dismantled everything that I thought I was. Like I had associated every element of who I was in my self-esteem to what I did, what I achieved. And once that was all gone, I ended up fat, out of shape, not feeling myself at all, obviously lonely, like we spoke about. And I wasn't making as much money as I used to because I wasn't putting in as much work because I had no desire to. So I was like, all right, so I'm in the trenches, now what? I really feel like God forced me into this season of isolation and despair because of many reasons. Firstly, to heal. Secondly, to recalibrate and just redefine what my values were, to tap into my feminine. Oh boy, when I tell you, I had such a warped idea of what a woman should be. And honestly, outside of looks, there would have been no reason why a guy would want to be with me. Like I was so dominant, I was selfish, I neglected my family. Everything was about me, my goals, my schedule. Everybody had to work around that. I had no space to receive masculine energy. I wasn't focusing on relationships. So I feel like that time really allowed me to just let go and begin focusing on the things that I would consider feminine. Biblical, traditional femininity, which actually gave me so much more fulfillment and self-esteem and peace than being on that never-ending hamster wheel of chasing more and more success. Another thing that God really broke in me during this crisis has been my pride. I did not rely on God. I didn't think I needed God. And you know why? Because I got everything I wanted. So there was no space for Jesus to be in my life and for me to walk in his way and submit my will to him. I am a dominant person. I'm an alpha. I know that. But that is the ultimate sin, is it not? Like thinking you don't need God, your pride getting ahead of you. And I didn't even realize all the blessings that God had given me. I thought that was me. I always had the mentality of, oh, everything that you want, if you work hard enough, you will get. And that was true, but I didn't realize all the prayer and the protection and the blessings behind that. And it really took me falling from my high horse for me to realize that. It really took me being backed up to a corner for me to call out to God. And you know what? A lot of people are like that. So if you are in a crisis and if you're relating to what I'm saying, maybe this is the warning, this is the conviction that you need to call out to your creator. Stop trying to get matters or take matters into your own hands. Sometimes you do have to lose everything in order for you to be pruned and for you to be the person God wants you to be. And the blessings and the abundance will come. Like there's no wasting time being in this crisis, being in the depths of your despair, being in the trenches. There is so much beauty that comes out of it. And I really do feel like I'm coming out of it now. And I can see the person that went into the trenches is completely different to the person that came out. I am 10 times more humble. I have so much relief and so much reassurance that I'm gonna be fine no matter what happens. I don't have to make every single decision. My body and my mind are healed. I'm more feminine than ever. Like, bro, let's talk about feminine aura. Like, I always used to get checked out, but approached, never. Well, okay, I would get approached sometimes, but still, it's not like now. Like, I don't know, maybe my pheromones got a software upgrade, maybe the men are smelling it and they know, but like, I'm telling you, femininity is an aura and I am exuding that energy. Like, girl, yes, my flop era is flopping, but let's just talk about how my self-esteem has significantly increased despite being out of shape, gaining weight, losing muscle, being lonelier than ever, not making as much money as I used to. I honestly feel like the pressure that I put on myself to perform, all of the external validation that I used to rate my self-esteem with was so fragile. Like, I was just doing it to appease my inner critic. But when I stripped all of that back, when I looked at the core of who I wasn't proud of that person. Like, I spoke about all of these things that I needed to work through. Being selfless, being softer, being more creative, being focused on Christ rather than focused on all the things you want to get in life. Those things really reveal your true nature. They reveal your God-given talents. They reveal your Christ, your identity in Christ. And that is a kind of self-esteem that is set on cement, not sand. And that's on God-given self-esteem, baby. I have never been more sure of myself, despite having less than I've ever had in my life. It's such a walking paradox, but when I say this crisis, this mid-20s crisis I'm going through, I just know there's a rebirth coming. There's gonna be a second puberty coming when I turn 26. I just feel it in my bones and I'm ready for it because I feel like God has really removed those impurities. Like there's a saying, it's like, I'm gonna butcher it, but in order to make a diamond, you need to plunge it in the fire to remove those impurities, and then the pure diamond comes out. And I feel like God does that with you. Like if you're going through a crisis, like just know it's for a reason. You're being shaped, you're being sculpted. God knows what you really need. He knows how much breaking you need and how much healing you need. And they all happen at the same time, and you're just like confused. And there are really, really hard days. But you know, if you are propelled into a crisis, just know that there is so much spiritual benefit behind that. The last part of my mid-20s crisis has got to be the feeling of impending doom that the world is going to end soon, okay? I know we all say it, we all feel it, like, oh, I'm wasting my 20s, but like a huge part of it is not our fault, dude, because I mean, we blinked and lost 2.5 years, just like that because of the pandemic. It seems like a new chapter of the Revelations is happening every month. Like, it's not my fault that my 20s happened to coincide with the fall of civilization, fam. Time is passing by faster and faster. We're getting bombarded with technology and world events, and then you end up feeling survivor's guilt and then a fear of the future. Like, we all feel it. Something is in the air. Some weird shit is going on in the spiritual realm, and things have been unfolding rapidly since 2020. So it's a really bad time to try to figure yourself out and try to build a future for yourself, right? 3 genocides happening at once. World War III tensions on the rise, an ever-growing housing bubble that doesn't seem to ever really burst, weather manipulation and us just completely abusing and trashing the planet, mass indoctrination of our children, the imminent collapse of the banking system, the internet, gender and social norms, and basically every framework we've come to know. It's scary times, fam. Like, I already know how this plays out. I read it in a book. So like a huge part of me is like, okay, Mary, you gotta get it together. You know, you gotta get your bag, become super financially independent, go buy some farmland with organic seeds and chickens, and go buy gold and stash that. You know, you can't be reliant on the government, otherwise they're gonna make you a slave in their total world domination agenda that is rapidly unfolding like a Black Mirror episode. But then another part of me is like, I'm gonna die anyway. The government's gonna take everything from me anyway. It's impossible to buy a decent house nowadays anyway.
YOLO.
I know a lot of us feel this way, and I think this is where you've just got to put your trust in something other than you. Like, I really don't like that quote, no one's coming to save you, because somebody did. But also, like, we are created to be dependent on each other. We were created in community and in communion with God, you know? So as much as I think it's valid if you are a lazy piece of shit and you have no sense of self-accountability, yes, no one's coming to save you, I think it's also a double-edged sword because it's reinforcing this hyper-individualistic motto and way of living. And I think that in this day and age, we need each other more than ever. We need Jesus more than ever. We don't need psychologists and antidepressants as much as we need a solid support system and a personal relationship with our Creator. I mean, you need people who truly love you and know you, not professionals that are gonna interrupt you mid-trauma dump because your hour is up.
Here I come.
We need to lean on one another, share resources with one another, share love, hope, share each other's pain. We need a lifeline. We need someone that we can put 100% of our trust and faith into so that we don't have this fear of the unknown anymore. And that's gonna come from your loved ones, your community, and your God. That is the answer I have to anybody who's really stressed about the future, because no amount of planning, no amount of buying seeds and farmland is gonna prepare you for what's coming. Like, if you are agnostic or you believe in God, but you're not really doing much about it, homie, I don't know what to tell you, but it doesn't get much better from here. I mean, you just take one look around, see what's going on in the world, and I don't know how that doesn't compel you, convict you to get your life together, get down on your knees and pray to the Lord Jesus. Damn. We don't have time to fool around anymore. Far too many evil agendas have come to fruition. Far too many conspiracy theories have been proven to be conspiracies and not theories. So many young people, myself included, have come to Christ since the pandemic. There has been a mass awakening. Okay, don't be the one who stays ignorant in their bliss. because everybody else is waking up. I am seeing so much content, Christian content. In fact, every religion content, okay? Even new age spirituality content, because people are waking up and they're like, you know what? Let's boycott the government. We don't trust media. The Jews run the world. Like, dude, we know, okay? We done known. And people are turning to some element of spirituality because we are spiritual beings. Why do you think we are so finely attuned to the vibrations and the frequencies of fear and destruction that is unfolding before our very eyes? That is your spirit, that is your intuition warning you that something is coming, warning you to prepare. Like, don't fight that feeling, okay? The pressing urge to lean on something greater than you. And look, I don't want to sound like a Jesus freak when I say this, although I think it's a bit too late for that, let's be real. Despite everything going on in the world right now, despite this feeling, despite the crisis mode and this impending sense of doom that a lot of us have, dude, like when I turn to Christ, I just feel like he lifts all of that despair away from me. He really supercharged me with this like energy and happiness and joy and hope and love. And it really is true that you've got to be a light in the darkness. Like, dark times are coming, but be the salt of the earth. Marinate this land, okay? Like, the only thing we can do right now is just put our trust in God and just band together, stick together. Don't let the negative energy infiltrate, okay? Be the light against the darkness. The most liberating thing is submitting your will to God, because it takes the world off your shoulders and you don't have the responsibility anymore. God, tell me what to do, I'm gonna do it, okay? And I know that sounds very ironic because it's like, oh, you're giving up your free will, but you're not, because you're in partnership with God, okay? It's a relationship. He's not a tyrant. Y'all are in covenant together. Y'all signing business deals together, all right? He knows what you want. He knows the matters of your heart. He's gonna get you to your individual promised land, okay? Just not in the way you want. There's gonna be some, you know, some trenches to get through, some tough times, but you're gonna get there. And you know what, before you give me crap about this, like, do the New Agers not think the same? Did they not appropriate that from the Christian religion? Like, y'all believe in the law of attraction and manifestation and what is meant for you will come for you and the universe knows. Like, bro, I see copy and I see paste. Tap into that childlike innocence and dependence. I'm just a girl, I just want someone to provide for me. Like, I mean, you got a father that can. Give that burden up to God. My mid-20s have been full of growing pains and inevitable bouts of depression and confusion, but I'm cool. I'm totally chill. I am happier than I've ever been. And it's because I know that I'm gonna be fine. I'm gonna be successful. I'm gonna find me a good ass man. Actually, that good ass man gonna find me. I know I'm gonna use my gifts, my God-given gifts, to do something big. I'm gonna have a great life story to tell. Why do I know that? Because Elohim himself told me, okay? It's so reassuring having like an insurance policy signed by God himself. And it doesn't make you feel like you're wasting time anymore. Like, I always saw these 2 years as a waste of time, but you know what? They were so crucial to my personal and spiritual development. And I know that abundance will come when it's time. But I am so much more secure in myself, so much prouder of the person that I am, so much more like Christ. And I don't think that there's ever a waste of time when you're walking with God. So I know this video took a few unexpected turns, but I mean, I can't talk about my mid-20s crisis without speaking about who pulled me out of it. And I have to say, like, this is probably the most powerful message I have ever put out on any platform in my entire time making content. So if you've made it this far, you know what that message is, and I really pray that you actually do something with it. I also hope that you like and subscribe and share this video with somebody who needs to hear it, if they're in the trenches or they need a wake-up call or maybe just a glimmer of hope. Anyway, stay healthy, stay humble, stay hopeful. Peace.